Japan is known for being a country where people live longer. In 2019, the country was ranked number 1 in the world for life expectancy as well as healthy life expectancy. But did the Japanese always live so long? The answer is no. During World War II and until the 1960s, they actually had shorter lifespans than the people in many other countries due to things like malnutrition and infectious diseases. But as the economy and hygiene improved and antibiotics was introduced, the longevity of the Japanese people skyrocketed and outpaced that of the people in many other countries. So, what are the reasons behind this rapid increase of the longevity of the Japanese people? Well, I'm going to explain to you what I believe to be the top reasons based on my research as well as my experience of living in Japan and in the US. Reason number 1, healthcare. Japan's healthcare system is designed to be widely accessible and affordable for most people. Since 1961, all people living in Japan have been required to enroll into some type of a public health insurance. And under this public health insurance, people have been required to pay only 30% of their medical expenses. For older people, the percentage is lower. And there is also this upper limit to which people are required to pay for their medical expenses in a month. In this graph, the blue shows the medical expense for the treatments people received in a year. The orange shows how much people actually paid for their medical expenses. So as you can see, people have been paying very little for their medical expenses. And because of this affordable system, people in Japan have been able to get the medical care that they need. Another point to mention is that ambulances are free in Japan, so people don't need to hesitate to call an ambulance in case of a medical emergency. Another thing to note is that regular health checkups are commonly practiced in this country. Yearly health checkups are mandatory in schools and workplaces in Japan. Nearly 70% of all Japanese people get a health checkup each year. This practice promotes health awareness and early detection of diseases. I myself have been getting a health check each year at work, and for the last several years, I've been getting high LDL cholesterol numbers, and they've been telling me that I need treatment for it. But I didn't want to take any drugs, so I started learning from doctors on YouTube about whether high LDL cholesterol is a real issue and how to improve health through lifestyle changes. I've been on this learning journey for a few years now, and my current understanding is that LDL cholesterol is not a reliable marker of metabolic health unless you're looking at the molecular size, and better markers are HDL cholesterol and triglyceride. I also realized that I do have some degree of insulin resistance, so I started working on reversing my insulin resistance by making drastic changes to my diet, as well as incorporating supplementation and exercise to my daily routine. So all in all, I am thankful for the regular health checkup system we have here, although I am not going to follow their advice. Reason number 2, low obesity rate. As you know, obesity is highly correlated to chronic diseases such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. In Japan, however, the obesity rate is much lower than many other countries. If you walk around the streets in Japan, you will see that many people are quite skinny, and you will rarely see people who are big and wobble as they walk. And I think the low obesity has contributed to prevention of chronic diseases in this country to some extent. Reason number 3, food. There are some differences in what the Japanese eat and how they eat compared to people in other countries. First of all, what I believe to be the biggest difference is that The Japanese people eat less processed foods. Fast food restaurants and junk food sold in stores are available everywhere in Japan, just like in many other countries. But people here eat these foods sparingly as snacks or occasional meals. They don't eat processed food all the time and live on them. Most of the time, people here eat whole foods, the real food. Most women in Japan cook for their families from scratch at home. Workers often bring their homemade bento boxes to their workplaces for lunch. Supermarkets and some convenience stores nowadays have a variety of ready-to-eat foods that are made with whole foods, so people can just buy them and eat them at home without having to cook. When going out for drinks with colleagues after work, Japanese people usually eat a more or less balanced menu consisting of things like edamame, fish, and chicken and eggs. Street foods like yakitori and okonomiyaki are also made with whole foods. So the entire food culture here is based around whole foods. Everywhere you go, you'll find whole foods. And that is why it is not hard for even busy people to eat whole foods every day. Another big difference between the Japanese people and people in other countries is that the Japanese people eat in smaller portions. I eat more than the average Japanese person, but people here eat very little. They prepare small amounts of food at home, and the foods available at restaurants, supermarkets, and convenience stores also come in small sizes. Smaller portion sizes have kept the obesity rate low in this country. And even when they eat unhealthy food, the effects that such food has on their health are not as significant because they don't eat a lot of it. Now, some people think that the Japanese diet is healthier because they consume less fat. Japanese foods typically don't use a lot of oils and fatty ingredients, so the Japanese diet tends to be lower in fat. Less fat is not necessarily healthier because we do want some healthy fats in our diet. But in the modern society where excessive calorie intake and processed oil consumption are major issues, this low-fat diet is believed to be one of the contributors to the low obesity rate and longer longevity in Japan. Another thing that some people believe is that the Japanese people live longer because they eat a lot of fish and soybeans. Soybeans are usually consumed in the form of soybean products such as natto, miso, and tofu. Traditionally, the Japanese were not meat eaters. Back in the day, fish and soybeans were their main sources of protein. Even today, they're still the staples of the Japanese diet. Now, we do know that there are some concerns with these foods, don't we? Fish contains mercury and soybeans are GMO. But when it comes to fish, not all fish contains high amounts of mercury. As long as you go for smaller fish that are on the lower side of the food chain and don't live as long, then you won't get exposed to any considerable amount of mercury. Fish provides high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which our bodies really need. 80% of the Japanese people eat fish at least once a week. I eat fish at least once or twice a week. And I like to have it the day after I had a heavy meal because fish feels light to the stomach. As for soybeans, actually soybeans grown in Japan are non-GMO. Soybeans can be healthy because they are low in net carb and high in fiber, which feeds the microbes in the gut. And some of these soybean products, such as natto and miso, are fermented. So they're packed with good bacteria and very beneficial for the gut health. Which leads us to the last point. Regular consumption of fermented foods. I believe that one of the reasons people here live longer is that they eat a lot of fermented foods. Fermented foods such as natto, miso, Japanese pickles, and yogurt are staples of the modern Japanese diet. These foods are sold in abundance in supermarkets and convenience stores. Many people eat these foods every day. Fermented foods are powerful probiotic and crucial for gut health. I eat natto a few times a week and fermented dairy every day. I make my own yogurt and kefir at home. I also make kombucha and shokoji. And my fermented foods have been very helpful in keeping me regular. Now, do I think Japanese food is exceptionally healthy? Is there anything special about the Japanese food that is strongly linked to longevity? Well, honestly, I don't think so. I think there should be more emphasis on protein and less on carbs, such as rice, noodles, and breads. As I said earlier, I think the biggest contributor to health and longevity in the Japanese diet is the less consumption of processed food, and the fact that people here eat whole foods, the real foods, every day. I remember people here get a lot of help from the medical system whenever they get a health problem, so that certainly helps with their longevity too. And things like fish and fermented foods are more like the icing on the cake that may have stretched their longevity a little bit. I believe that any cuisine can be perfectly healthy as long as the right ingredients are used. Now, we do have fast food restaurants and junk food in the modern Japanese society, but people here don't seem to just jump onto them and rely on these foods as much as people in many other countries. So why do Japanese still eat healthily despite the presence of these junk foods around them? Well, I went to schools in Japan and in the US, and I believe that the Japan school lunch program has a lot to do with this. Children here eat school lunch every day in elementary school and all the way up to junior high school for the total of 9 years. The lunches are made from scratch and the menu changes daily. And the daily menu is designed by school nutritionists. I think the exposure to good examples of proper meals throughout childhood really teaches them what and how much they should be eating and shapes their eating habits in the right ways. And this is helpful especially when they're not fortunate enough to have access to proper meals at home, like myself. My mother was not a good cook. Her food was always tasteless and colorless, and she didn't know to serve food properly. She would always serve food in pans and pots rather than in bowls and dishes. But thankfully, I was exposed to good examples in Japanese schools for years, and that was enough for me to know that what was served in American schools I went to later on in my life was not healthy. In the cafeteria of the American schools I went to, they were serving things like French fries, pizzas, and pretzels, and I didn't see any salads or meats or fish. There were vending machines selling sodas and snacks inside the schools, and there was also a nice lady who was selling bags of chocolate chip cookies in the hallway. And I think that these things can send wrong message to the children and shape their eating habits in the wrong ways, especially when these children don't have access to proper meals at home. Not all moms are good cooks. So on and on, I believe the Japanese people live longer because they eat relatively clean and in smaller portions, and they get medical help whenever they need it. And that is it for today. Let me know what you think is the key to long and healthy life in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this far. I'll talk to you soon.